You're absolutely right. This is a huge moment in the history of the game. Silver Age is this fast, fun, affordable way to play Flesh and Blood.
So 6 years now of Flesh and Blood, but this next year is going to be a heavy focus on Silver Age. See, on this last weekend's anniversary stream, it was nearly entirely focused on the official announcement of this new budget-friendly format. Silver Age, it's fast, fun, affordable, and it's being billed as a format that will usher in the new era of Flesh and Blood. Now, obviously, this announcement was highly anticipated and came with incredible excitement of the larger community who'd been waiting for this moment for several months now. So in today's budget format fab video, we're going all in, recapping, running down the info, but more importantly, talking the impact and the future. You're watching Budget Format Fab on Dice Commando, your BFF for all things in budget Flesh and Blood. Coming to you midweek each week, these videos are possible thanks to the support of our channel members. If you want to get involved with the channel and join us on our community Discord, please consider joining as a member. You can be our BFF and show your support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving a comment. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends, and welcome back to the channel. Now, special welcome to my BFFs out there, but I do expect that we're getting a wider audience today, especially talking about the new format. So welcome everybody, and hey, welcome. You're now a BFF if you're into Silver Age at all. That's right, Budget Format Fab coming to you midweek, every week, here on the channel with a heavy focus, of course, on Silver Age, the brand new format. So today, and this is going to be a long one, folks, you can see I've got the list on the side to keep me on track, but we're talking everything from this last weekend's announcement, plus the scope, what I see going forward, and the impact. So Silver Age is here, and this is pretty awesome. We've been waiting for this for a while now, several months, like since like May, I think, right? And how would it would evolve to, but it's here. So the formal announcement, new fab format, fast, fun, and affordable. As I mentioned, your $20 ticket to the $2 million World Tour, and that is specifically because their pre-con decks are being sold for $20. And as we'd kind of talked to running up into, for several months running into this, I did expect I actually wasn't sure, if you recall in the Wayback Machine, I wasn't sure whether Silver Age was going to be the name of the format or a product supporting it. Obviously, we know now a name of the format, that there is product supporting it. Specifically, these babies, the pre-con decks coming in to chapter 1, chapter 2, whatever, 2 different products. But we have a total of 10 decks. So we have OG Dash, the mech. We have the new baby Bravo, Flattering Showman. We have Icelander, of course. She's been on all the advertising, so I don't think that's a surprise. We do have Armed Kayo, and then Viscerai. Not a Briar, not a Chane. So I think they're trying not to go too deep into that one. We do have Enigma, which is the Illusionist. So we do have 10 classes here, by the way. The only thing not represented being Gravy Bones and the Necromancers. We have Azalea, Arachne. It does appear to be Web of Deceit, Arachne, but we will see. We have Phi, and then we have Dorinthea. So interesting, for anyone who's been following the budget formats, and again, yes, Commoner is different than Project Blue and vice versa, but things carry between the two, and anybody who's been following any sort of budget stuff knows, by and large, which heroes are better than others. So there's some surprising choices here on these pre-con decks, which do bring in, a couple questions for me. But before we move there, let's mention that, these $20 decks will contain a complete pre-con that James himself said was going to be like out of the box, legit, go be competitive.
These are carefully curated, competitive decks straight out of the box.
No punches pulled. These are designed to head to a calling, head to the Pro Tour, and compete.
And you could win. Yep. You could win one of these competitive professional events with a deck straight out of the box. They have been built and refined and honed to win tournaments.
And these things also come, which is great for $20 alone. And they also come with the booster pack for set 18, which lines up on why these will come out February, because it'll be either concurrent with or slightly after the release of set 18, which we were told is PEN. That's all we know now. It's either PIN or PEN. I think it was PEN with the way he said it. But again, we will see probably at Worlds. We'll get more info. Not probably, almost certainly at Worlds, we'll get more info on that. And what was interesting about the set 18, which is relevant to the rest of this conversation, they mentioned that set 18 was going to, their exact words, I don't remember their exact words, but the gist of it was that set 18 was going to largely support this. So let's ask ourselves, what does that mean, right? Obviously, the set's going to have commons and rares in it because they'll want it to be draftable. Here's what I think. I don't think the set itself is going to be focused on Silver Age. I think the set itself, I think they're utilizing probably a lot of equipment, specifically like Battle Worn 1 equipment for lots of different classes. Maybe they're using expansion slots to do so. I don't know. I don't know how you do non-M expansion slots. They can figure it out, whatever. But I do expect there to be a lot of equipment to get us off of Blade Beckoner, because basically everybody's running Blade Beckoner in the spots that they don't run right now in this format. And I think that's going to change. Again, we've talked about that, over the summer. I had a couple casts, or at least one cast about it, where I was talking about, the future of this in terms of like the short-term power creep will almost certainly lie in equipment, because everyone wants to do fun things and people want to have an equipment that lets them block and then pops for something that lets their people do it. So that is where I suspect the support for this is going to come from. There could be other things as well. But the fact that these decks also have a booster pack of set 18 in it lends very hard into the intro-ness of these decks, right? Because they want a new player to not only come get it and be able to go play with it, but it also is like, oh, and here's a booster pack. Welcome to the world of Flesh and Blood, right? So using the entire thing as an intro deck, not just a pre-con deck, but an intro deck, right? You kind of double dip there. And so basically that makes it, to be fair, you wouldn't necessarily have bought the pack anyway, but that basically makes this a $15 deck. That seems fine. It seems fine. Because the precons were 13, and I'm talking US obviously here, right? Precons were 13. So if you make these, and by that I mean the Blitz decks were 13, make this 15, including booster pack, sell it for 20, fully competitive. Seems legit. And then it begs the next question you see there. Will the precons have exclusives in them? My initial guess is no, but it's absolutely possible that it could. Now, that doesn't mean they won't get reprinted or get the gem pack treatment or something in the future. But it would not be unprecedented at all if these precons have exclusives in them. And kind of the reason I'm going there for this is I want to talk about Dorinthea specifically. So Dorinthea, if I were to do a 10 deck battle box to represent the current format on my own, if I were to create that and just have it so we could play or cube it from a certain point of view, Dorinthea would not have been the hero I would have chosen. It would have been OG Kassai. Not just because I love her, but because she is the best warrior in the format, I believe. So if they are going with Dorinthea here instead of OG Kassai, and there's a couple other, Web of Deceit, for example, maybe he's the best. I tend to think that either New is the best or ASC, like Solitary Confinement, is the best. So, that's a choice. And then you have Phi as the Draconic Ninja, who's really fun, but there's no Ira. So there's a couple choices there where you see that they're actually going with the non-optimum hero in a deck designed for you to go and be competitive in. So it really raises that question for me of if they are doing something to raise the bar for these heroes. And then, of course, you have to keep in mind that set 18 will have come out. So, maybe it's not exclusive. Maybe these are dependent upon cards in set 18 to make them better. But that's a little weird with that argument of the heroes we just talked to specifically. So anyway, TLDR on this one is I wouldn't be shocked if we end up getting some exclusive cards out of this that are at least exclusive in the short term. Because we've seen time and time and time again that even for new player intro products, Flesh and Blood will put exclusives in there, or LSS will put exclusives in there to buoy the product with the larger player base to make it a profitable endeavor. So I don't think it's out of the question at all. All right, now in terms of the format details, that's where the bad news comes in. Only common, rare, and token heroes, right? I think the vast majority of us expected that, but we were kind of holding out hope for those, we're kind of holding out hope for the any young hero. Not the case. So we do, in fact, have some dead heroes in this format from the young standpoint. Yeah, they can be played in Blitz. No one's going to play Blitz anymore after Skirmish. It's just it's just true. So those heroes are those heroes are off the table. So that is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So the term is disagree and commit. Not like we have, any say in the matter, but just move on. It is what it is. I'm obviously affected by that, but it is what it is. So that's all I have to say. Now the final ban list is, or I should say the starting ban list, to be fair, is extensive. And that doesn't come as a surprise because remember we had what I'm showing right now is the original ban list from Project Blue. Kind of vague. I'm not going to read them all for the purpose of this, right? But, there's kind of a greatest hits of ban lists, right, across all the various formats coming together in this one. We do see that they upheld the fact that Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, right? There's a lot of 0-4D reacts on there, which I think that's the most impactful thing of most of this. Flick Flack's also on there from a ninja standpoint. There's a couple other classes out there that do have legal 0-4s. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not really sure how Sigil of Suffering got through this. But hey, whatever, man, whatever. We'll see how it, for all the Runeblade hate to give them that. We will see. And also I'm a little surprised that Rootbound. But again, it is what it is, and we'll see how things develop over time. So in addition, though, to the original ban list, we have some brand new bans. So Fiddler's Green, this one doesn't really makes a lot of sense, right? Fiddler's Green is, Sigil of Solace in a way, fine, right? And in the 20 health format, you get that early, it can make an absolute big thing. Fiddler's Green seems like no-brainer to me, doesn't seem like a problem. Honing Hood, I think, was surprising to some people. But the thing is, in the format with what can be done, in many cases, this can create a 5-card hand in a way, right? So this, Honing Hood, I think, is, for anybody who's dabbled in the format, there is a Shiver Lexi build that's very, very, very good. Azalea is also pretty decent, assuming she gets what she needs to get. So I think this is perfectly fine. I'm bummed on this one. I did buy a cold foil of this from a commoner standpoint many, many years ago because it was like $2, and I was like, this is a pretty good card. So I have one and it's out, but it seems pretty reasonable to me. NIMBY is a no-brainer. This is, a lot of people won't understand this statement, but when we do our budget and brews, the event formerly known as Common and Crawl budget and brews, most of the time when our folks, because we're a pretty good play group, show up, we're not running the busted stuff because we, in many cases, expect it to get banned in the future and don't want to put effort into it. Both Sean and I, who showed up with Briar, neither one of us was running NIMBY, not because we didn't know NIMBY was theirs. Like, that's clearly not going to stand and we don't want to put effort into it. So no surprise on my opinion that NIMBY is here. Old Knocker is an interesting one. I think it's unfortunate on Old Knocker because I'm pretty sure Old Knocker is paying for the sins of Pummel, is why Old Knocker's on this list. In terms of what it was doing for, the Wizards and stuff, I think is really unfortunate. The Wizards, to be fair, they've got Spellbound Cloak and all that. So they've got their thing. But Old Knocker, I think, was fine. But I think that because of Pummel and what it can do and the fact that there's just not enough tap heroes yet, and this is an eternal format, so it'll probably always make that statement because, again, going into Wayback Machine, talking about other casts we've done, right? If I want to talk about Echoes of the Past, which I'd recommend you go watch, talking about how the evolution of heroes over time has favored the older heroes within the budget formats because of the, design philosophy of them pairing up specific M's with specific heroes as time has gone on. The fact that as they go forward, they will release more tap heroes, but Old Knocker will be disproportionately better with the older heroes, which will always be in this format. So I think that tracks that, maybe Old Knocker would have found itself out anyway. But I think in the short term, it's not because of like Wizard things. Old Knocker is almost certainly paying for the sins of Pummel. That's my opinion. Vigorous Smash Up. This one did surprise me, but it just surprised me because I didn't really think of it. It seems to make sense, right? Giving Kayo let's be honest, right? Giving Kayo what he needs in this format like that. That's a lot, right? This is also an interesting card, right? Because if you go back to heavy hitters, there was a very clear cycle on that. So there was agility, might, and vigor, right? And two classes had access to each one of them on a cycle, and Vigorous Smash Up breaks that cycle because it gives Brute access to vigor, which they didn't have, right? Brute was agility and might, Warrior was vigor and agility, Guardian was might and vigor. So now that Vigorous Smash Up is here and Brutes have access to that, it breaks that cycle. And from a fundamental standpoint, I think that is very impactful. So it tracks to me that this is what it is. Then finally, we have Reality Refractor. Shouldn't really come to a surprise of anybody who's been playing Commoner for the last couple years. Well, since Mistveil. Basically, the only new hero we have who's super relevant within the Commoner format is Enigma, and was doing just stupid things with Reality Fractor. So makes sense, carries, and now she has access to even more stuff. So seems to track to me. Bandless seems pretty legitimate, in my opinion, to where we landed. With the exception of, it's time for my rant, I do not know how Pummel made it through this. So the format, I'll just be blunt here, the format has a Pummel, I was going to say Pummel problem. I guess that's dependent on your point of view. But there is zero doubt that Pummel is a format warping card within this format. We've seen someone who, on paper is not even all that good, someone like Scurv doing crazy things just because of how strong Pummel is, right? And I talked about Old Knocker, the sins of Pummel. It's relevant, right? And basically anybody who can run, if you can run Pummel, it is a format warping card because of the fact that the 0-4 D-Reacts are gone and not every class has equally fair access to 0-4 D-Reacts. I mean, the script kind of writes itself. I don't think I really need to explain it more. Now, I would be okay with yellow Pummel being legal and not red, because there are a lot of 0-3 D-Reacts out there, I believe across all classes. But right now, the only thing that counters Pummel is Springboard Somersault from Arsenal. And the statistics and reality of you drawing it and being able to put it in your arsenal and hold it there while they draw their Pummel and do their thing is not fair, in my opinion. So it is what it is. But right now, I believe Pummel to be extremely format warping, perhaps the most format warping thing out there. I'm very surprised Pummel didn't get banned. So I'm going to say on it, I know there's, people who like certain classes are going to disagree with me because they inherently want their stuff. But if you really take a step back and look at the WTR cards, why did they develop those the way they did? There was counters and balances at a fundamental level, and they took out some of the fundamentals and not the other one. So if you want to have yellow and blue Pummel, I'm okay with that. Red Pummel without the counters, and maybe we will get counters going forward, right? Maybe set 18 brings us a whole bunch of class-based 0-4s. Maybe we will see. But right now, the Pummel escape is a big deal, in my opinion. So anyway, off my soapbox for that one, but we'll see going forward. There's going to be one here in a month or so, and we'll see what the big kids do with this once it gets on a competitive scene. Then there's actually real stuff to win on the line. Okay. So to kind of move to closing on this, the excitement is real. The excitement is legitimate. And the fact that they're going so hard, I mean, to be fair, we've only seen 3 announcements at this point. But the OP future of this is a big deal, not just because it's offering OP, but because it's really helping to change a lot of the narrative, at least in my head. It'll help change a lot of the narrative around the game, right? I mean, when your event ticket is 2 to 3x the price of your deck, you don't really have a lot of argument about the game's too expensive anymore, right? So yes, we will see long term. You look at LL and the numbers and the numbers and the attendance for the events is not great. We will see from a data standpoint if people like this or not. Now, there's a caveat there, and this is not negative on the format at all. It's just being realistic. There's a lot of people right now who are very into the format because it's new, right? We've seen this time and time again that when a new card game comes out, everyone's like, oh my God, this is great because it's something that's not solved yet. And for the vast majority of us who play these games, we are problem solvers. That's what we enjoy, right? So we get on it and we're like, oh my God, this is great. I want to put all my time, solve this problem, try these new combos, figure it all out. It's awesome and it's exciting. And that's where we're at right now with Silver Age, is it's new. And we're trying to solve the problems, and it's an unsolved meta, and we can do things, and because the stuff isn't solved, we can squeak stuff through that might not be as good as it was, or we can try different things, right? So while we're unpacking all that and enjoying it, it's awesome. So we'll be able to ride that wave for a bit. However, if, these first, we have the 3 coming up, it's there's one in APAC, there's one in Seattle, and then there's one in Europe. And I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll put them here where they are. But those will all be through the end of 2025. And if the metas are, very Guardian heavy because of Pummel or something like that, that can have an impact. And yes, they will adjust. They have proven that they will do that. I'm not worried about that. But we do need to remember that as the meta becomes more solidified and you see the same heroes in a non-rotating format, mind you, continuing to top, if we get there, that can have an impact and perhaps shorten the excitement or the interest long-term in OP. But overall, right, with that caveat said, there's really no reason not to be excited about this, because I think, throwing the OP thing aside, or throwing the high-level OP thing aside, the impact that this is going to have at our armories is not insignificant. Like, it's going to be, in my opinion, pretty massive, not just as an onboarding thing, but as a getting people back thing, right? Because people can play their old heroes, but they can play their old heroes on a fast and fun and short form way. So it's only 2-3 hours. So they can get those member berries, but it's not smash you in the face like Blitz would be. And it's not as complicated or long as CC would be. It seems very, very, very attractive for exactly what the vast majority of the players out there are trying to do, which is just go play on Friday night or Saturday night or Tuesday or whatever it may be. So that's pretty exciting. Now, to cap this off, final reminder, it's been very interesting this last 4 days. I have been seeing a lot of people who are suddenly experts on Silver Age out there in the Aether sphere. It's kind of fun, right? Because obviously there's a lot of excitement about it. But there's a lot of folks out there who are suddenly experts. And I would just like to remind you, there's a small number of us out there who've been supporting budget format, not only Commoner, but also Silver Age, basically the whole time, right? Give shout out to Ashen Wings, to Geeks First, and to myself, right? We've been doing a lot of work for a long time supporting this. So just remember, as we're going out there and sourcing things, that if you're listening to somebody who's now suddenly an expert, but they've only been doing it for a week, they might be a good fab player, but they might not understand the ins and the outs of the format. And yes, commoner learnings are absolutely going to apply forward to this. So if you've been a commoner player, been a budget format player, it's looking real good for all of us. Just remember that it's an unsolved format. Things are going to change, and we need to evolve with the times. But it's going to be a lot of fun until we get there. So anyway, my friends, really hoping to see you all next week. Oh, by the way, I did promise a deck tech to you all this week, but I mean, like, we weren't going to talk about this, right? So that deck tech's pushed to next week. No big deal. It's still there. Team members have access. I'll see you all next week. And go Commando.